read this anime. Let me tell you something about this anime. Take Lucky Star and Azumanga Daioh and smash them together. Make the teacher a 10-year-old girl. Throw it in the randomizer, and you get Pani Poni Dash.
Pani Poni Dash is an anime adaptation of a manga called Pani Poni, written by Heikiro Hikawa and appeared in Square Enix's G Fantasy magazine. The story is about a group of students at the Momotsuki Academy and focuses around their teacher, Rebecca Miyamoto, a 10-year-old child prodigy.
And if you think Lucky Star and Azumanga Daioh were random, just take a look at this.
So we begin with a look at the Earth in the distant future, where the world has been ravaged by a mysterious catastrophic event.
Finally, really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Now, I gotta ask, what was the whole reason for that scene?
I know it is being used to introduce the main character of the show, but that is a rather peculiar way of doing it if you ask me. So after the opening credits, we are then introduced to a group of aliens orbiting the Earth in order to study and monitor our main heroine from afar.
Not to sound crude or anything, but this could be a more productive and less invasive way of studying your target without having to abduct her onto your ship and stick a tracking device up her butt, and yeah, that's enough.
Meanwhile, at Momotsuki High School, rumors begin to erupt that the teacher in Class 1C has suddenly quit and will be given a replacement. So as it turns out, it is our main character Rebecca Miyamoto who is replacing the old teacher. However, it turns out that she is late for her first day of teaching as she overslept and gets lost trying to find the school. Meanwhile, the kids try to figure out what kind of teacher she is. By the way, don't you think it is rather unwise to leave a classroom of kids alone all by themselves? I mean, you're bound to have this happen sooner or later.
If this is gonna go down, let's go down. Touch me.
And if it's a school in the US, probably not long.
So as Rebecca finally arrives at school, she is treated by her students in the usual manner. By treating her like a little kid, which really doesn't sit well with Becky here.
Shut up, you little brats! Don't you dare underestimate me! Look, I don't care if you ask me questions, but please use your brain before you open your mouth. For the love of God, try to think of less boring things to ask. Understand? You Lorelei Forms!
Wow. That has got to be the best birdie I've ever seen in my entire life.
I mean, seriously, this kid is aiming for an extremely short teaching career with that kind of attitude. I mean, what would the parents say if they found this out?
Hello, honey. How was your day at school?
Terrible.
Why terrible?
Our teacher flipped us off today and called us earthworms.
And if she gets fired, no one will miss her.
My God, she's so young.
What'd you do that for? I'm your teacher.
So, yeah, the kids try to spend some time trying to figure out how to get Becky from hiding behind the curtains and try their best to warm up to her. Throughout the course of the show, Becky and her students end up in all sorts of weird adventures, satirizing many different pop culture references in the process.
But that's enough spoilers. Let's talk more about the characters.
Rebecca Miyamoto is an 11-year-old girl born with a mixed heritage. She is insanely intelligent for her age and was even the youngest person to graduate from MIT.
Maybe you could teach that moron Dr. Tsukumo a few lessons or two.
She is very sluggish, somewhat brash, and quick-tempered, but cares for her students and helps them in any way she can. However, when she gets scared, she immediately reverts to her childlike state and runs and hides behind a curtain and cries. Then there's this kid. Meet Himeko Katagiri. This character bewilders me. She is basically a very eccentric and energetic girl who enjoys irritating the other students in her class and has a very bizarre way of thinking. To put this into perspective, if Tomo and Osaka from Azumanga Daioh ever had a gay love child, this would probably be the result.
And honestly, I shudder at the thought.
Her weird mannerisms include shouting out Maho in every conceivable moment and proclaiming that a certain thing is Omega. For example, that is so Omega cute! One other thing is her cowlick hairstyle. I swear that thing is alive. It mostly serves as the source of her limitless energy, and if removed, she loses her energetic personality. Then there's Rei Tachibana, who is probably the only normal person in the entire school. She is probably the only mature character in the show, both mentally and physically. I mean, damn!
I'm sorry, what?
Being the most mature character, Rei has very little patience for the other girls' bizarre antics, as well as being the one who corrects Becky when she gets too rash and steps out of line. She is also the only student in Becky's class to have a part-time job and works at a Chinese restaurant. Last and certainly least is Masosa, the emo bunny who suffers from a severe case of depression. In fact, I think he and Eeyore should get together and form their own pity party.
Thanks for noticing me.
And maybe we should invite Shinji Ikari while we're at it.
He mostly serves as the slapstick character in this show. As a result, all sorts of nasty things happen to him, from being prepared for someone's dinner, to being blown up, to having his legs broken, all without complaint. Masosa is also bullied by the mysterious cat god, who often spends his time inside vending machines, warming the drinks up to body temperature, and also bears a striking resemblance to Chiyo's father in Azumanga Daioh.
It looks like everyone in this room has already forgotten good old Masusa ever existed.
Oh, lighten up, will you? The rabbits in Watership Down have had it a lot worse than you.
For a comedy show, I was amazed at how little this show depended on fan service and boob jokes. Granted, there are a few jokes that involve fan service as well as some mild suggestive themes, but thankfully it is neither overused nor is it explicit. However, there is a couple of scenes in episode 4 where the girls spend time at a public bath. Thus, I will give nudity 1 star for quantity and 3 stars for intensity, while I will give crude humor 2 stars for quantity and 2 stars for intensity. There is quite a bit of mild profanity that will frequently show up as well. And need I remind you about Becky giving her students the bird in episode 1? Most of the violence in this show is mild slapstick, although at times it does go a bit overboard. Thus, I will give profanity 3 stars in both categories, and for violence, 3 stars for quantity and 2 stars for intensity. Much like Lucky Star, Pani Poni Dash is at heart a parody anime, which means it suffers from many of the same problems as Lucky Star. If you do not understand what the show is trying to parody, the jokes will prove to be more confusing rather than funny. Thankfully, unlike Lucky Star, which focuses mostly on anime, games, and manga, Pani Poni Dash focuses on parodying American pop culture just as much as it does with Japanese pop culture.
And yes, here comes another comparison to Family Guy.
Oh, God, there is no drummer better than Neil Peart!
It ain't easy being cheesy.
However, this anime has a lot more in common with Azumanga Daioh than it does with Lucky Star. Much like the aforementioned shows, Pani Poni Dash has a very minimal ongoing plot, so you can take it easy or watch it in any order you like. And also like these shows, Pani Poni Dash's main driving force is its jokes. Except this time around, the jokes come flying in at a breakneck speed, which may prove to be more than a bit confusing trying to comprehend the meaning of one joke before the next one comes around 5 seconds later.
Wait, what? What was that joke again? Oh, come on.
Pani Poni Dash is no stranger to running jokes either. One prominent running joke is it would seem like the anime is set up like a live-action show, such as production crew members walking around on the set and in the background.
And not a Christian Bale inside.
Kick your f***ing ass! I want you off the f***ing set, you f***. No, don't just be sorry. Think for 1 f***ing second. The f*** are you doing?
For the most part, Pani Poni Dash does utilize its time pretty well. There is not a moment where the show's pacing slows down, and even if it seems there is nothing going on, there usually is. Pani Poni Dash may not have much of a plot, but it definitely has enough humor and wit to keep you entertained. That is why I will give story 3 stars out of 5. One interesting thing about the soundtrack is that there are many different variations over the course of the 3 opening and ending themes. The background music has a huge variety of genres depending on the show's mood, from suspenseful to bubblegum pop to jazz and whatnot. The voice talents are pretty good as well, with a strong list of voice talents who handled their characters pretty well. Some of the characters' voices can be annoying at times, but not once have they become overly loud or obnoxious. Thus, I will give soundtrack 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to lie to you, the show's animation style tends to wander depending on the theme of the episode. 1 minute everything seems normal, and then suddenly the characters and objects shrink in size, are blown up out of proportion, turn into cardboard cutouts or puppets from 1 minute to the next. But make sure you keep your eyes peeled, as many funny jokes happen in the background as characters talk, either as writings on the chalkboard, objects in the background, or just characters walking by. Blink and you will miss them. However, there is one problem. Sometimes the scene goes by so fast, you may have to pause and rewind in order to read subtitles, footnotes, or other information that flashes by at warp speed. It may not be the best of quality, but I will still give this 3 stars for animation. Character-wise, it is very easy to make comparisons between the characters in this show and those of Azumanga Daioh. However, instead of focusing on a main group of 6 or so characters, the show takes some time to focus on other students and teachers from other classrooms, each with their own eccentric personalities.
So, as you can imagine, this show has a humongous cast.
The character diversity inherent here is good for the show, as each distinct personality bounces off another and keeps the show from growing stale. The characters each have something lovable about them, and you are guaranteed to have at least one favorite character by the time the show ends. And for that, I will give characters a 4 out of 5. Pani Poni Dash is a fairly decent comedy anime to get into. It may not be as good as School Rumble or Azumanga Daioh, but at least it does what it was intended to do. Despite a few problems ranging from the fact that it takes a while to hit its stride, jokes tend to repeat themselves often, and it has scenes that go by too fast or drag themselves out from time to time, it is still worth a decent watch. That is why I give Pani Poni Dash 3 points for interest and an overall rating of 7 out of 10.
Now excuse me as I take some time to finish some homework. This is the American Anime Otaku, signing out.